What's up my movers and shakers? I'm Dave, this is MS Paints, and this is some better ways to take pictures of your miniatures. Photography is one of those skills that's part of the broader miniature painting hobby, and because it is on the broader side of things, we don't think about it too much, or at all really. But in this video we're going to attempt to demystify the process, or at least on a basic level, so that you can take power of your photos. So whether you're rocking a smartphone, or a shitty cheap tablet, or a fucking stupid arms. Why didn't we evolve with more arms? Or a cheap shitty DSLR, actually that's not shit. Or a cheap and cheerful DSLR. We're going to cover enough information that you have the basis to take better photos of your miniatures with whatever you've got. Okay, if you've ever looked into the subject of taking miniature photography, you're probably familiar with this process. We take a white sheet of paper, we arrange our background lamps, we arrange our painting lamps over our subject, and we make sure it's in focus. And then we snap our picture. And bullshit. Absolute bollocks, wank, forget about it. Weirdly, amazingly, you tried to take a picture of something and it didn't look great. What if your colors are flat? What if your image is grainy and dirty as fuck? What happens if only some of it is in focus? Nah, white background, lamps, fuck it, you're good. Now let's get in there, let's figure out what some of these problems might be caused by, and let's see if we can fix them and send you guys away with the ability to take some better miniature photos. Full disclosure, your miniature is never going to look as good as it does with your human eyes. Your eyes are wonderfully complicated and incredible machines. And that's before we factor in the time and investment that your brain associates with the thing in your hand. There is no way a picture will compare to the physical feeling that you get when you finish painting a miniature. What we can do is bridge the gap just a smidgen. Let's try to understand our phone and tablet lenses a bit better. I'm going to set this iPhone to its portrait lens. You can get up real close with it, but because the lens has a pretty shallow focus plane or depth of field, we're going to back off a little bit so we can get more stuff in focus. Select the subject on the screen and the phone will figure out what's going to look best. It will lock in the focus, it will figure out the white balance, kind of, gain, and then snap what it assumes is the best picture, which is generally correct. And you've got a nice photo, a little bit of correction in some built-in or free software like Instagram or the photo browser that you've got on your phone or tablet, and you're ready to go. But let's try this again with a shitty cheap tablet camera. Immediately, I can tell this guy isn't as smart as the iPhone, which is fair enough. It cost like £90. The camera isn't as shallow, it doesn't let in as much light, and the minimum focus distance isn't as good. And most notably, the resolution isn't as good. It's a shit camera. Not the worst, to be fair. I had banked on this camera being a lot worse than it was, but it's not great, and it does need a lot of work to make it pretty. But there's a definite immediate flaw with this camera, and most notable flaw is its minimum focus distance, which is an absolute killer for miniature photography. Minimal focus distance is Minimal focus distance is the minimum amount of space your subject has to be away from the lens for it to be in focus. For example, this Takumar 35mm 2.3, things need to be about that far away for them to actually ever be in focus. That's as close as you can get if you want to get something in focus. Look at you, what do you do? I remember you. This cheap Sony APS-C lens, which I absolutely love to bits and have used it in the last few videos for most of the footage, you can get about that close with it, which is, quite frankly, for a £120 lens that's as shallow as it is, a fucking joke. Always keep that MFD in mind, because on cheaper built-in cameras and smartphones, it's definitely there. Your tablet and phone cameras on the cheap side weren't necessarily meant for macro photography. In fact, they definitely weren't meant for macro photography. They're meant for taking pictures of kids having fun, cats doing stupid shit, and holiday snaps. Or those ridiculous bastards who take pictures on their giant portable TVs of, just York landmarks and stuff. Anyway, if you are beyond that camera's minimal focus distance, you will not get your subject in focus. For my advice, if your photos are looking blurry, well, first of all, clean your fucking lens, you dirty bastard. And second, back away and crop in later. Now, of course, if some of this information is a little bit daunting to you, you might be interested in this video's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform that definitely has all the information you need if you want to take your miniature photography further. Right down to dedicated courses for iPhone all the way up to pro-level cinema cameras. If what you've heard in this video so far has intrigued you even a smidgen, try out the link below and to see what you can do with an entire free month of Skillshare. Skillshare have been kind enough to join me on a learning journey of my own for the next 3 months, so I'm gonna learn something big, something ridiculous, something to test out just how valuable this platform is. And that, my friends, is Unreal Engine 5. I now have a portable workstation that can handle Unreal 5, and with technology, and especially film technology, leaning more into virtual filming environments, I feel the need for an acquisition of additional knowledge. So I'm going to be taking a course on learning Unreal Engine 5 from the ground up, starting from the basics of installing the engine to hopefully creating a fully virtual environment and controlling the engine's cinematic camera with my own camera rig. Is it ambitious? Yes. Yes, it is. But is it a worthwhile endeavor to try and learn it anyway? Yes. Yes, it is. The first 1,000 people to use the link below will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Well, thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video, and now back to it. Keep in mind, even though I do have professional camera equipment actually physically coming out my arse in here, I tend to use, for my stills work and video thumbnails, generally I'll always use my iPhone. And that is because I take my iPhone photography just that little bit further. And that is using manual apps to dial in my settings manually. Now I'm going to be using the Pro mode on this Samsung tablet, but I also had a quick go with ProCam on the iPhone. Both were pretty similar. Since we're dealing with unifying attributes of cameras and lenses anyway, generally the language is universal. Now on a real camera you would have aperture control, which if you're taking pictures of large groups of models or bigger models, you dial the aperture down. But because you don't have that control on tablets and smartphones, we're just going to physically back up. I'm going to set my ISO as low as it will go while keeping my subject well lit. If you go too hard on ISO, that's where the image starts to shit itself for most things, because you're essentially adding brightness to an image rather than physically letting more light in. And by shit itself, I mean it adds noise, grain, and basically generates white noise to try and fill in the blanks of an image that doesn't have the detail. Set your white balance to match your lights or as close as possible. Usually the bulbs or the packaging will say what temperature your light is. My lights here are set to 5500 Kelvin, which is pretty much daylight, so I'm going to dial that in. So let's take a moment to talk about white balance and why it's actually an important thing. When you throw down a model on a surface to take a picture of it with a load of different colored lights, and maybe a colored background or a white piece of paper, your camera just looks at it and goes, bro, what the fuck am I looking at? It's going to try and figure out what color the light in the room is, and sweet Jesus, sometimes it really goes wrong. I even had some issues against the white background, again because it's a fairly simple algorithm trying to figure out a massively subjective thing going on. And if you're taking multiple photos of like a set of different miniatures, then you definitely want to lock that in if you have backgrounds in mind. Because I guarantee every time you move the camera away and move it back again, something will change. On the left we have the tablet doing its automatic settings, and on the right we have the tablet with the dialed in ISO, the white balance, and we've backed away to get more in focus and then cropped in. I would say that's a decent photo for a really cheap piece of shit tablet. Personally, this style of photography is not for me, not from a technical standpoint, but from a subjective standpoint. I don't really feel like my painting is of a standard where I want to take a picture of it with a white background and say, hey, check out my shit hot paint job. So I like to busy up my frame a little bit. And you can do that with the same lighting principles, your hobby lamps, your manually dialed in values, and the phone camera should be able to keep up with this no problem. Again, I'll switch to my portrait lens on the iPhone, which is aperture 1.8. I get everything lit right how I want, and I watch that background just kind of melt away with depth of field. That's my kind of thing. Here I'm working on a thing. Here's the studio in the background because, I mean, I've got a space like this. This is one fucking interesting space. And here's another item I'll sneak into the background for engagement purposes. That essentially covers phone and tablet photography and any kind of basic problems you may come up against. I'm going to touch on DSLR photography a little bit because it's not as expensive as you probably think it is. And then, if you're still unsure about your finished painted product, we're going to talk about subjective lighting and how we can hide some of the things you might be insecure about. I've been doing most of my YouTube videos and photography with hybrid cameras like this. And we had this old 600D just sat in our display cabinet upstairs because despite our unrelenting industry cynicism, we still need to present an aura of pastoral camera heritage and mystique. For much the same reason, the old music studio I used to work at, a Mac Pro 4 case just sat under the desk, like an empty case, just sat under the mixing desk. Because we got sick of clients just worrying about that their music would somehow sound worse if it was recorded and edited and mixed on a Windows platform. Like, sure thing, forget the fact that this mixing desk is actually the one used to record the soundtrack to Star Wars A New Hope, not the same brand, the same mixing desk. And then these guys are asking if our computers can run GarageBand. I think the term we dubbed it as was fake aesthetic. Like, fake aesthetic. Pretending, just having shit dotted around to prove that you can do the job better than your actual ability to do the job. Like, we have this broken camera just in the cabinet upstairs, and people look at us and think, yeah, these guys know how to make films better than anyone else because they got a broken piece of shit from a charity shop in there. Yeah. They do look pretty though, I guess. They do look pretty. Where am I? That was it, Canon 600D. Fucking hell. Which you can get now with its kit lens for about £250. I think there's an even cheaper one that's like the Canon 350D from 15 years ago. It's like a £30 camera with its lens, and I want to see at some point if I can take decent miniature pictures with that. And the big difference with DSLR photography is that you have control over your aperture, and provided your aperture is fast enough, you can get some very stylish or very clean photographs. Let's try and get some snaps with the Canon 600D. Firstly, we'll try it with the kit lens it came with, the 15-45 3.5. Is it a good lens? No, but let's see what happens. Now we're going to switch out for the Sigma Art 30mm f1.4, which it weighs 10 times as much as the kit lens, so I know this is better. And because the aperture is faster at f1.4 versus f3.5, we can be more selective about where our focus plane sits. Wide open, this lens can pick out the marine at the front, but not the one a centimetre behind him. And I'm even starting to lose some of the main subject because our focus is so shallow. His backpack is getting lost a little bit if I want his face. And this brings us to one of the key rules when shooting miniatures and photographing miniatures with a DSLR or real camera, and it has been a rule since time immemorial of filming miniatures. Let's look at how, say, ILM used to photograph miniatures for Star Wars. So because everything's miniature, everything is scaled down, yeah, no shit. But we want it to look big and fill the frame and look like a real thing. When filming the Millennium Falcon for ILM, you couldn't have your aperture wide open because only some of the model would be in focus. If I'm photographing the real Millennium Falcon, I need to step back to get it all in frame, and because I'm stepped back away, my focus is going to be longer, set to infinity that is, and therefore everything will be in focus. If I go back to the Minster and I'm at f1.4 on this lens, real wide open, I have all of the Minster in frame, I set my focus to infinity, and most of this is going to be in focus. And the rule trickles back all the way down to when you're taking pictures of your Space Marines for Instagram. So when shooting the Millennium Falcon to make it look like a real, physical, scaled object, this is not so much just a cosmetic thing, but a technical thing. If you want to take a picture of a squad that are all set out in like anything but a straight line and you want to get them all in focus, you need to step down that aperture to get that depth of focus if you want your lens close. Okay, so we have covered a mishmash of basic tech stuff that is not in any particular order, and I do apologize for that, but hopefully you can take one thing from this video, and that is my meds are making my skin on fire. God knows what color I am in camera right now. No, don't take that away. So what do you do if you want great shots of your minis, but you're not entirely comfortable about the quality of your painting? We're all different. We all have different levels of talent, skill, ability, confidence. But at the end of the day, it's a fucking hobby, and a hobby's meant to be fun. Well, we can hide what we don't like in many ways. Some more advanced ways like this shit, which is honestly completely overkill. But the easiest way I've found is by busying up the frame and adding some subjective lighting. Not bad lighting because you end up with a bad photo, but subjective lighting. And this is easily done because RGB and coloured lights have never been cheaper. This Gotox light tube at 50 quid. In the dead of night, I can light myself up with this thing in campfire mode. I can light up half of this beach for an hour with this bad boy. Set yourself a key light, throw a second light on there to fill it out, and then throw in your coloured light. And what you're doing is adding interest to your shot, basically. It's not improving your painting, but it is adding colour value and interest. And sometimes it's not even an insecurity thing. Sometimes it's just fucking fun to get a coloured light and throw it on your model and think, hey, now that's atmosphere, right? Like this Boba Fett piece, I gave it a harsh light from above to add a desaturated sun-bleached look and then crushed the blacks to emulate how it looks on the TV show. And these shots of my Tyranid diorama, it's literally just got a red tube light at the side to add a little something something to the model in the background. So if you're insecure about throwing your paint job out there to the world, well, take a moment to think about ways around it. So be creative and don't let a paint job you're proud of end up with a dirty, out of focus, grainy, nasty, not white balanced photo. This video has been quite a long time coming and was aimed mostly directly at my patrons. We have a painting competition coming up soon, the Golden Desmond, or the Desies, which is a typo that just went completely out of control, but it suits it down to the ground. And I didn't want those guys to miss out on the opportunity to win some cool shit just because the photo might not be great of something that is otherwise awesome. And of course it goes without saying, big thank you to my Patreon community who drive, support, and keep me sane. And obviously, big thank you to this Weejo sponsor, Skillshare. Right, my skin feels like it's actually on fire, so I'm gonna fuck off. Cheers, I'm out of here.